Hi, welcome to Prime Recap. Tom and Jerry must team up in an adventure to save New York's most anticipated wedding ceremony. Today we will recap the story of Tom and Jerry, from 2021. In New York City, Jerry is looking for a new home. A neighborhood rat introduces him to a car from the junkyard, where he would live for the next few months. However, Jerry is not at all interested in living in that filthy place and having to share his house with cockroaches, so he decides to leave. Meanwhile, Tom walks the streets in search of a way to make a living. He takes his keyboard to a busy street in the city and begins to play. To move the people passing by, the cat pretends to be blind and thus manages to raise a good amount of money. Jerry is walking nearby and, seeing Tom doing well playing the instrument, has the idea of using his talents to attract the attention of that audience so he can get money to pay for a nice place to live. He puts a can beside him and, seeing the little mouse's show, people start giving him money. Some even take the coins they put in Tom's hat to give to Jerry, which causes the imposter cat to revolt. Tom tries to catch that nosy mouse, but ends up pulling his own tail and has an accident. The keyboard falls on his head and breaks off. Seeing his only working tool destroyed on the floor, Tom becomes enraged and captures Jerry. At this point, the audience discovers that the cat has been playing blind all this time and takes their money back. Jerry punches Tom right in the eye and the cat and mouse chase begins. Tom uses a plate to try to crush him, but ends up a victim of his own weapon. In the meantime, Jerry manages to escape and the cat goes after him. Kayla was making deliveries on her bicycle when she is knocked down by Tom. The cat was so focused on his hunt that he couldn't even dodge the girl. All the clothes she was carrying are scattered on the floor and Tom ends up being run over by a truck. Because of this incident, Kayla is fired. Since he had nowhere else to go, Jerry decides to try his luck and become the newest tenant of the Royal Gate Hotel. Tom shows up shortly afterwards and pursues him again, but ends up getting kicked out of the hotel before he can even get in, while Jerry, with his small size, manages to infiltrate the place without any problems. The little mouse goes through the pipes as Kayla enters the Royal Gate Hotel for lunch. After eating dessert, the girl starts talking to a woman who was carrying a suitcase right next to her. After observing carefully, Kayla concludes that this is a wealthy tourist and offers her a tour of the city for a great price. However, the woman named Linda informs her that she is not there for fun, but to attend a job interview. Linda is one of the candidates to join the team that will organize the wedding of Prita and Ben, New York's most beloved couple. Upon discovering that the hotel is hiring employees for the event, Kayla informs them that Linda has just been disapproved. The young woman poses as one of the recruiters and claims that Linda began being evaluated the moment she entered the hotel. She says that Royal Gate's employees are supposed to be discreet, and by informing a stranger that Prita and Ben's wedding would take place on the hotel premises, she was doing a major breach of secrecy. Finally, Kayla asks to see the woman's resume and, noting that she has worked at dozens of renowned hotels around the world, states that Royal Gates is looking for New York employees to fill the position. Therefore, Linda was not a good fit. Upon hearing this, Linda gets up and leaves and Kayla uses the woman's resume to get the job at that event. A few minutes after infiltrating that hotel, Jerry finds a little corner where he can easily imagine himself living. The place needs some renovations, but after a few days of work, it would become the perfect home for the mouse. At this moment Kayla is being greeted by Terrence, the event manager, and hands him Linda's resume. In order not to be discovered, she tears a piece of paper with the woman's name on it and blames it on the children in the lobby. Terrence introduces Henry, the general manager, and the man states that he has not come across such a qualified resume in a long time. At this point, Kayla makes an unexpected move. The girl takes the sheet of paper from Henry's hands and tears it up, claiming that it was just a piece of paper. She then throws the torn pieces up and says that to know her real abilities, the man would need to hire her. After all that show, Terrence asks the young woman to pick up the fallen papers on the floor and signals Henry to dismiss her. However, the man decides to bet on the girl's talent and Terrence is forced to hire her. Henry informs her that the employees are to stay at the hotel that week, so that they would be available to make all the preparations for the wedding. Already properly dressed, Kayla prepares for her first day on the job. Terrence takes her on a guided tour of the Royal Gate and introduces her to the staff. Jerry takes advantage of his free time to borrow some things and set up his new house. Meanwhile, Tom keeps looking for a way to get into the hotel and get rid of that rat, but fails in all his attempts. Jerry uses a copy machine to make some photocopies of himself for decoration. At the hotel bar, Kayla meets Cameron, the bartender, and soon discovers that they have the same taste in sneakers. The boy informs Terrence that the bride and groom have already arrived at the hotel and the manager rushes to welcome them. Along with the couple, Spike, the bulldog, and Toots, Prita's grumpy cat, arrive. The dog spots Jerry and runs to grab him, but is stopped by Ben, who grabs his collar. Toots gets scared and jumps into Kayla's lap. Preeta is surprised to see her cat getting along with the girl because, according to her, Toots hates humans. At this moment, a new friendship begins between Kayla and Preeta. Terrence goes to introduce the room to the bride and groom, and after taking some items from Preeta's purse, Jerry heads to the kitchen. He is attracted by the delicious aroma of cheese, and a few minutes later everyone hears cries of despair coming from there. Terrence asks Lola, his secretary, to accompany the guests while he and Kayla go to find out what is going on. Upon arriving in the kitchen, Chef Jackie reports that Leo, one of the cooks, has gone berserk when he sees a mouse running over his foot. Faced with the gravity of that situation, Kayla assures him that she will find a way to get rid of that animal. After setting up all the details of his house, Jerry goes out in search of food. Apparently, he has not been able to get anything from the kitchen. To make her job easier, Kayla sets a trap containing a piece of cheese. However, while talking to Cameron, Jerry takes the cheese and leaves. When she looks at the trap again, the young girl is surprised to notice that the cheese was gone. In place of the food, Jerry had left money behind along with a note telling the girl to find a better trap. That night, Tom tries to hide from the storm in a dark alley. He no longer has his keyboard to earn money, and as his stomach rumbles, he sees Jerry preparing some drinks in the window of one of the hotel rooms. After having a chat with his former angel and devil, the cat decides to follow the advice of the dark side of his conscience and climbs the building, already determined to eliminate that mouse. Now he must face the tightrope and cross the high-tension wires to reach the window of the building next door where Jerry was. However, halfway through, lightning strikes Tom and he takes a tumble several feet in the air. However, like a true cat, has another 8 lives to spare and decides to use them while trying, again, to capture Jerry. This time he uses an umbrella to help him get his balance, but the pointed object is an excellent way to attract other lightning. Seeing that he has made it out unharmed, Tom runs to cross, but Jerry cuts the wire and the cat is electrocuted a second time. His last attempt consists of using wings made of cardboard to fly to the window. But Tom ends up flying into the clouds, and when he returns, his entire superhero costume gets soaked and falls apart. To his luck, he falls exactly on the window where Jerry is. However, the mouse does not appreciate his opponent's efforts and closes the window in his hands. Tom then suffers his second fatal fall, followed by lightning. While Jerry is watching a movie lying on his bed, Tom appears at the window and uses his sharp fingernails to cut a hole in the glass. The cat catches the mouse in a glass and wraps it in a piece of cloth. Then he throws it out the window. Tom believes that, finally, the game has turned and enjoys his sweet revenge. However, Jerry soon shows up and chaos ensues. Tom shoves him into the sparkling wine bottle and swings until he is thrown out. The rat fights back and attacks him with an iron. At this point, the hunt begins and the duo destroys everything in their path. Terrence informs Kayla about a loud noise coming from one of the rooms and the girl goes to investigate. When she enters the room, she is shocked to see the mess and recognizes Tom as the cat that got her fired from her old job. The animal communicates through gestures and tells her that the whole mess was the fault of a mouse. Kayla soon realizes that he is referring to the very mouse she needs to capture and suggests a deal. According to her, hunting mice is in a cat's DNA, so if Tom would help her get rid of that mouse, the young woman would reward him. The next morning, Kayla takes Tom to the general manager's office and suggests that he hire the animal to get rid of the rat that is terrorizing the hotel employees. She claims that if they hire an exterminator, the entire building would have to be emptied and all the guests would know about the presence of the rat. However, if they hired Tom, the animal could hunt him discreetly, without raising suspicion. Terrence is against this idea, but Henry decides to bet on Kayla and let her handle the situation in her own way. Later that day, Tom is already dressed up and properly identified as the newest employee. The cat spots a note from his enemy congratulating him on his new job. Jerry challenges Tom to pick it up, and the feline enters the game. He follows a rope that ends at a door. As he tries to pull it open, Jerry appears and hands him a baseball bat, which Tom uses to strike the guy on the other side of the door. What the cat didn't realize is that it was attacking Spike and gets into serious trouble with the bulldog. Jerry breaks into the bride and groom's room and is caught by Toots while trying to steal some items. The cat becomes enraged and attacks him, but he is accidentally saved by Preeta, who is looking for Toots. When she realizes that Kayla and Tom are looking for a mouse, Joy, one of the hotel employees, suggests that the girl take a look at the little door that has appeared in the hallway on the 10th floor. When Kayla gets there, she knocks on the door and Jerry answers it. The young woman politely asks him to leave, otherwise she is in serious risk of losing her job. But Jerry refuses to get out of there, so Kayla calls Tom to help her. They start running around the girl, and quickly Jerry manages to knock Tom out. Upon seeing this, Kayla becomes extremely angry and tries to force open the door. However, She soon receives a call from Terrence and walks to the bridal suite. The organizers of the event appear in the couple's room with some wedding gifts they have received. While Ben enjoys playing golf on the simulator, Preeta tries to clean up the mess at the wedding. Upon seeing Terrence, the man abandons the simulator and starts making absurd requests for his wedding party, such as the presence of elephants to walk them down the aisle. Preeta tries to dissuade her fiancé from this idea, but Ben insists on this bizarre ceremony. Before Terrence and Kayla could leave the room, Preeta asks the man to take Spike for a walk and requests Kayla's help in selecting the bridesmaid's dress. Once they are alone, Preeta reveals that she lost her engagement ring and doesn't want her fiancé to know about it, because that jewelry was extremely expensive. A few seconds later, Ben appears and asks where his fiancé's ring is. Kayla decides to help her and says she took it to have it polished. When the man leaves, Preeta thanks her immensely. Meanwhile, Terrence gets angry by taking the bulldog for a walk. The dog decides to stop in the middle of the street to relieve himself and makes a gigantic poop. Jerry was admiring Preeta's stolen wedding ring when he is attracted by the aroma of cheese coming from outside his hiding place. However, when he catches the cheese, a trap is sprung and a cage falls on him. Tom has been waiting for this moment to capture Jerry and send him far away via the air delivery service. Later, he informs Kayla that he has managed to get rid of the little monster, and the girls soon goes to tell Henry the excellent news. At night, at the bar, Kayla and Cameron celebrate their victory while Tom reveals his talents on the piano. Jerry shows up soon after, ruining all of Kayla's hopes of getting rid of that rat. The girl says she will call the exterminators to get him out, but Jerry offers her Preeta's ring in exchange for being able to continue living in the hotel. Suddenly, Terrence and Spike show up and Jerry is gone. The man claims to have seen the rat in Kayla's pocket, but the animal manages to escape undetected. Tom goes after him and the dog starts chasing him. Terrence tries to hold Spike back while disaster strikes, but the bulldog is stronger than he is. The animals get into a fight all over the hotel, destroying everything in their path. Terrence is also dragged into the fray and spots Jerry before he is hit on the head. Just then, Joy arrives by elevator. The animals end up getting in there and go up to the top floor. Minutes later, Tom and Spike fall from the glass ceiling, causing real damage and great loss to the hotel. Checking her pocket, Kayla finds Preeta's ring that Jerry left as a gift. Later, in Henry's office, Terrence tries to get Kayla fired after what happened. However, the man's plan backfired and Henry claims that it was Terrence's fault that all that happened, because he brought Spike to the bar. The man is dismissed from his job and Henry rips off his badge. Before he leaves, Terrence knocks over everything that was on his boss's desk and leaves with a thirst for revenge. Henry reports that he received a call from Preeta in which the woman told him that Kayla found his engagement ring. The man is proud of the young woman's work and asks her to take on the role of manager for that event. He still promises that if everything went well that weekend, on Monday they would talk about a permanent position. That night, Kayla goes up to the terrace to talk to Tom and Jerry. The girl asks them to stop fighting and says that the two of them would have to leave because this is the chance of a lifetime. Seeing the pair extremely sad, the young woman says that maybe they can stay. But for that, they would need to learn to live together in harmony. To test whether this would really work, they would need to spend the whole day together in the city. The promise was that if they could get along during this time, they could stay at the hotel. The next morning, a car was waiting for them at the door of the building. Later, a truck shows up and the driver states that they have been requested for the wedding. A few hours later, other animals are brought to the hotel and the lobby looks like a zoo. Meanwhile, Tom and Jerry are having fun in the museum. They observe their ancestors and the mouse tries to play a trick on his new friend. Tom gets scared and knocks over a dinosaur skeleton. At the seafood market, the fun continues and they document their entire journey on Instagram. During a baseball game at Yankee Stadium, Tom and Jerry get into trouble after catching the ball and disrupting the game. The match was being broadcast on TV and while watching, Terrence had an idea. The man sees the pair being captured by animal control and decides to go after them. The two are placed in a tiny cage in a room filled with other dogs and cats. In the cage next to them is Butch and his gang. They try to devour Jerry, but Tom manages to save him. To try to get those evil cats to stop going after the mouse, Tom pretends to eat it. However, Jerry lights a match inside the cat's mouth and Tom begins to let smoke out of his ears. Just then, the guard appears and informs them that they have a visitor. Terrence talks to each of them individually and says that he can help only one of them get back to the hotel. In addition, the man makes up some lies to try to play the animals off against each other and in the end tells Tom that he has chosen to get him out of that place. He says as much to Jerry and takes the two of them, separately, to Preeta and Ben's wedding party. Before the ceremony begins, Chef Jackie presents his masterpiece and receives applause from the guests. Everyone is simply delighted with the wedding cake. By now Kayla is convinced that the party will be a success and on Monday Henry will hire her permanently. Before they enter, Preeta tells Ben that she is dying of embarrassment about being mounted on an elephant, but the man tries to reassure her by saying that the woman looks beautiful. The bridesmaids release a few butterflies to set the scene for the ceremony and the guests get more and more surprised and excited. However, Terrence sneaks in and welcomes Tom. As soon as the cat enters the ballroom, the man tries to urge him on and shows Jerry who is enjoying himself across the room. Tom is possessed by his rage and goes after the rat. As they walk towards the altar, a tiger appears and Preeta arouses her anger. The woman was unhappy that Ben brought all those animals to the wedding without consulting her first. At this point, Tom starts chasing Jerry and the mouse tries to hide behind the cake. Chef Jackie appears and, upon seeing the animal, completely freaks out and begins to destroy what he himself had made, in an attempt to kill the rat. On the sly, Terrence celebrated every disaster and Kayla goes into despair. While attacking Jerry, the chef throws the animal away. The problem is that the mouse ends up on the head of one of the elephants and those gigantic animals panic. They start running from one side of the hall to the other and destroy everything around. In the midst of the chaos, Spike shows up and Tom is in danger. However, the tiger that was tied to the altar goes after the bulldog and everyone is even more frightened. While the fight was going on between the animals in the salon, the guests run away and Preeta abandons Ben. The elephants manage to get out of the hotel and terrorize the streets of New York. Later, Terrence shows up and alerts Henry about Kayla. He reveals that the girl is not who she claimed to be and the young woman admits that she lied about her resume. Just then, Preeta appears and says that there will be no more marriage. The woman gives Ben her engagement ring and leaves. That night, Kayla packs her bags and leaves, too. Terrence evicts Tom from the hotel and the cat goes back to living on the streets, sleeping in cardboard boxes. However, the next morning, Jerry shows up and they hatch a plan to fix the immense damage they have done. Kayla calls Cameron over to talk and tries to explain why she lied about her resume. At this point, the couple meets Tom and Jerry and the duo suggests that they go back to the hotel, try to recover what was not destroyed, and find a nice place to have an impromptu wedding. Kayla accepts the challenge, but when she arrives at the hotel she finds Preeta getting a car to go to the airport. She then enters the hotel and tells Ben that the wedding could still take place that day. The man goes along with the crazy idea, and Joy suggests that the ceremony take place in Central Park, which is right across the street from the hotel. While Terrence and the other staff members arrange to get the guests together again and set up the decorations, Tom and Jerry go after Preeta. Kayla gives them the coordinates so they can find the woman's car. They use a motorized skateboard to reach her and take some shortcuts on the way to arrive in time. Jerry hitches a ride with the drone and uses himself as bait to lure Toots. The cat goes after him and is taken away by the drone along with the mouse. Preeta orders the driver to follow them and a few minutes later they arrive in Central Park. The woman is surprised to see the decoration of the place and is thrilled when she discovers what is going on. Kayla is the first to greet her and apologizes for the disaster that happened the night before. The girl asks for one more chance to make things right and wishes the woman good luck. Ben approaches his ex-fiancée and tries to explain the stupid thing he did at the wedding. Preeta states that she didn't want any of it, the only thing she would like is to be by his side. The man says he loves her and asks her to marry him again. Preeta accepts the proposal, and after they change, the ceremony takes place. In a simple way and with all the family members together, as she wanted from the beginning. After the party, Kayla introduces Linda to Henry and Terrence and informs them that she is the real owner of that exceptional resume. The woman is hired immediately and Kayla gets a new opportunity to work at the Royal Gates Hotel. Finally, despite all the disagreements, Tom and Jerry toast together and a new friendship is formed. However, the atmosphere of harmony is short-lived, and within a few minutes the rivalry between them is reignited. So, what did you think of this movie? Let us know in the comments below. And if you liked the video, please like it and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.